Thank you for staying with us. It's still Plus TV Africa, and our election countdown show is still on. Thank you for joining us on all our social media platforms. In case you're just joining us, we're on Twitter, Instagram, YouTube, and of course we are on Facebook. And we're moving to another phase of discussions. We're going to be talking about youth and women in politics. A lot still needs to be done to give women more room for participation in politics. It does appear that the huge and overwhelming representation of women at most political rallies has not transformed into increased opportunities for women to contest for elections. And the President, Muhammadu Buhari, has signed the Not Too Young to Run bill into law this year. Now, to discuss women and youth participation in politics, we have Princess Funmi Dosunmu Ayola. She is the YPP aspirant for the Federal House of Representatives Surulere constituency, and Honorable Dayo Israel, who's a public affairs analyst, who's also contested in the 2015 elections.
2019 elections.
2019 elections, primaries, yeah, but you didn't get the ticket. All right.
Thank you very much for joining us. Now, let's start the conversation with the Not Too Young to Run bill that received presidential assent that reduced the ages to run for elective offices. And in the president's broadcast, the first day it was announced, he had this little grin and said, well, the youth shouldn't expect to actively run in 2019. Should we question that assertion?
The truth of the matter is that, okay, we all know the president was joking when he said that. But the truth of the matter is that even with the reduction in the age, with the not too young to run bill, how many young people are actually ready to run? That's the honest truth. How many young people have been mentored? I tell people that what happens is that we do have youth participation in politics. But the question is, do we have meaningful youth participation in politics? All the thugs, all the boys that run around the incumbent and all that, they're all part of the political machinery. But do they offer meaningful service? Is there any kind of mentoring that goes on? They surround themselves with...
A couple of these young persons would tell you that there is no opportunity. First things first, running for an office in Nigeria means you got to have money to pick up a ticket. And because they have reduced the age does not mean that political parties have reduced the price or the cost of their forms. Can we start from there?
Can I clarify something? There is a difference between youth engagement in politics and youth participation in political leadership.
Yes.
They're two different things. What the Not Too Young to Run bill, which I was one of the people that were advocating for that, sought to achieve was the engagement and the participation of young people in the decision-making process.
So
you cannot make a decision about the future that we're going to be in without involving us in the conversation. It's called sustainable development. How do we get a seat at the table? How do we have a voice when you discuss the issues surrounding us?
But she asked an interesting question, Mr. Dayo.
Yes.
How ready are we to even get involved? Hold on. How many of us are even interested in taking that
you missed the point.
My point is that the way to get the youth ready to be at the table is for them to have some kind of mentorship.
I agree with you.
Yes, but the truth of the matter is that none of that is going on right now.
No. There's a lot.
People are just surrounding themselves with young people. And I'll tell you why. In this last couple of months that I've been on the campaign trail, I've had to talk to a lot of young people. And every time I talk, I'm upset. Because I realize that they're just surrounding politicians.
Yeah.
They're not growing. There's no growth pattern.
Totally.
Nobody is helping you to move up. That's why you have politicians in power. 20 years down the line, people are in power. Where is the young man supposed to go to?
I share a sentiment. What I do not want is a total generalization that we do not have youth that have the quality or the competence.
What's the percentage?
No. Hold on, please. There are young people who have capacity, who have experience, who have been prepared in their different... There's what we call transferable skills.
But they are allowed to...
No. So that there are two things entirely. We're saying the same thing, but it's the angle. Let me use myself as an example. When I was 14, I was elected into the Nigerian Children's Parliament as the first deputy Senate President representing Lagos Central Senatorial District. I will go to Abuja, we'll have Children's Parliament sitting, we'll have mock sitting, we'll discuss polio, we'll discuss the needs strategy. I gained experience from there. I went to represent Nigeria at the World Water Forum in Japan, at the UN General Assembly session in New York. I met Mandela. From doing all of those things, I was invited to Buckingham Palace to meet the Queen of England. I gathered experiences and skills over the years. I was a one-day commissioner for information in Lagos State. There are young people like myself who have gathered those experiences. What the political class do not do is that they do not place value on those experiences we have acquired in the workplace, in our extracurricular life. That has to change. So there is a value on that. The second step is this. You have to begin to give young people the opportunity to even serve in little places. I love what Madam said. The fact that a lot of young people are around, because the reality is that they're not opening the space for us. Exactly. So we want to go near there. We begin to serve. When I moved back to Nigeria, I went to work for a senator as his SA for about 3 years. I served. I learned. Did you know that somebody was saying to me recently, about 2 weeks ago, that I was not qualified to become a coordinator of an association of aspirants because they don't believe that I have the qualified experience to lead my colleagues.
This is exactly.
You understand? Why? Because I was young. And so that's why I say I agree with you. But despite that, I made him understand that, see, I might not have the experience. I might not have been a supervisor in my local government before, or been a councillor in my local government before. But you must never discredit and disrespect the skills that I've acquired over the years of being the first African to be elected a student council chair in London's largest university, London Metropolitan University. We have acquired knowledge on campus, in association, in extracurricular activities. Leaders, political parties, and government must begin to recognize that. In fact, Tomi was 27 years when he became an advisor to a president. Rashid Badamasi was a commissioner at 27. People under the age of 30 have led in this Nigeria.
Okay.
That must
I want to take you back to something, because you see, you started right, but you probably missed it halfway. The average young person is more interested in running for an office because of the power and, you know, the...
That's not right.
It's a perspective. Because we're mixing the idea of leadership and being actively involved in making those decisions. So, must you just want to run for an office to say, oh, youths are involved in politics?
Exactly.
Or
that's what we're saying.
Do you need to also get involved in changing the narrative from your own tiny little corner?
Absolutely.
Exactly.
Which a lot of people would say young people are sitting on the fence when it comes to issues of politics, except when money is being handed out to them.
And for me, we have to remember that even Nigeria has more than half of its population being
60%.
60%. About 70%.
If we have all of these numbers, then why aren't we having a strong grassroots engagement?
Because
beyond social media, because if we're having...
There are two major reasons why this happens. First of all, a lot of the young people don't have PVCs. I happened to be in a forum, I was discussing with them, and they had all the... it just occurred to me to ask them, how many of you are registered to vote? I mean, I was talking to a forum of like 60 people, and only like 3 or 4 people.
But for me, we've had instances where we've had young people, we've seen reports, young people were willing to vote and then they were asked to pay 5,000 naira to collect their PVCs or register.
What I don't want us to do is
I would like for Ms. reaction.
No, the truth of the matter is that we young people, me personally, I can't imagine getting somewhere and they tell me to pay 5,000 to collect a PVC.
That day, against it.
See that day, we will collect our PVCs. I can assure you. And nobody will collect no money. The young people of nowadays will just turn around and walk away. Me, when we were growing up, you can't tell us that kind of stuff. You can't.
So what do you think is responsible for the docility that we display today?
It's because there is no mentorship. Young people are not being mentored. Let me give an example. I was talking to a group of young people 2 or 3 days ago. And this guy says to me that, okay, so what do you want to do for the young people? And I go, youth empowerment, we're going to do youth empowerment. We're going to have business desks for those who have fresh ideas, help them to grow their ideas, help them to get international funding or some kind of funding. And the guy says, okay, so what do you want to do for people who don't want to work? I was stumped. I mean, here's a young person who doesn't want to work. It's because there's no mentorship. They haven't been groomed. Young people they're just on the streets. Nobody's helping them to go. That's why what we need to do, not too young to run bill. Yes, you can reduce the age. But the truth of the matter is that do we have the people who will work, who can fit into those positions?
Let me engage you a bit. You're running for the Federal House of Representatives under the Young Progressive Party, that's the YPP.
Yes.
What are you doing differently?
And you're going there as a lawmaker, not as an executive, not as a mayor of some local government. Yes. You are a lawmaker. So you obviously cannot necessarily... A lot of young people will tell you, these federal representatives, after you vote for them, they go back to Abuja. Their constituency offices are always closed. So how do you intend to reach out to these young persons and these ideas that this interesting ideas you listed out? How are you going to reel it out?
Fortunately, I'm a member of the Junior Chamber International. It's a worldwide leadership organization for people between the ages of 18 and 40. So I have, over the years, been having a lot of engagement with young people. It's a natural, it's something that I joined when I was 19, and I've been a member of that organization. I've gone to be a member of the Senate organization of that same, Senate part of that same organization, because we understand that youth involvement is very, very key. And that's one of the things, one of the bills I'm going to be pushing, where we're going to talk about gender inequality, talk about education, talk about youth empowerment. Those are the things we need to be pushing. Those are the kind of bills we need to be pushing, because the truth of the matter is that when we have 60%, 61% of young people in as a percentage of the population, then we need to do something for them. Else, at some point in time, we'll have a gap. So part of what I'm going to be doing is have a youth empowerment desk. We're going to be looking at after-school care for people in university, in secondary school, ICT, and stuff like that. They'll get basic trainings. Because what happens to a lot of people is that when they're in university, you don't get basic training on things like basic accounting, leadership, bookkeeping, small management skills, that when you come out of school, if you don't get a job, you can begin to do something.
But for me, I'm sorry, this isn't new in any way. There's so many politicians who have come up with the same kind of ideas. We're going to do this for students, we're going to do youth, and they end up not doing it. So why should we take you seriously?
The difference is,
why are you different?
And I'll tell you, I'm different because he, for instance, said he's been in politics. I haven't been in politics.
I haven't been in politics. I've been in the last government leadership.
In the last 20 years, I've been hitting the streets like everybody else. I've been in banking. I've worked in 6 different banks. And I wake up 5 a.m. in the morning. I leave my house at 5:30. Sometimes I'm at work till 11, till 12. So I feel the pain. I'm not a career politician. I'm not a political jobber. I don't make my money from politics. So that's the truth of that's where I am different. I'm not going to come and, like I was telling them in DSS last week, I said I haven't learned the bad habits. Pray for me that I don't learn these bad habits.
Dayo, let's also look at the relationship between godfatherism and the youth in politics, because for you to grow through the ladder, some way, somehow, you need to get into those good books or have that backing. How realistic is this menace? I describe it as a menace in Nigeria because we can't have a stronger democracy if we are always tilting the balance just because you are favored under the godfather in charge.
I believe that our democracy is growing. The first progress we have made is...
Let's face our reality.
Yes, no, I'm coming. Let me land. Our democracy is growing. What we must first celebrate is that aspirations have increased. When I ran for local government election in 2017, there were over 1,000 young people who picked up the nomination form. Even though the party increased, when they saw the numbers, they increased the nomination fee from 255,000 to 555,000, hoping that would cut down the number of people aspiring. Everybody went to raise the money because we now feel that we have a responsibility to stand up and do something. And the money will not limit us. The political structure will not limit us. And there are a lot of us who are now building ourselves into a system, and we're building our own structures. The point is, every of the people that you call Godfather today also rose and fought and built their own structure. So what they're saying is, you want my structure, you have to play with my tunes. But as we also grow, what is happening is that we're going to begin to take the leadership, because life is transient, power is transient, and it's a process. We have more younger people now who are defying all odds. Look at it, for example, in Etiosa, you have Banki W running. Almost every local government in Lagos State, even in our party, the APC, I belong to the APC, there are a lot of young people who have picked up the phone, who are running, who are saying no matter what the leaders think, no matter what it is, we are going to aspire. And we fought, we've invested in money. That is the first thing we need to celebrate. That the youth are now waking up to say, we're not just going to be guys who are touted to this guy. We have the capacity and the competence to be able to make a difference.
All right.
And if we have that zeal and that spirit in you, no matter the influence, you would be able to overcome in a matter of time.
I want to ask a question that would, be same for her, but hers will be targeted at the women. You talked about young people rising up. How many young people are banding behind young people? Because the ballot box snatching, the ballot box stuffing, the shooting, and the gun violences during elections are perpetrated by young people who have been paid by these so-called old people who have been in the system for a long time. Same thing for the women. Detail for the lady who ran for presidency, some time ago.
Yeah.
She had just one vote. How many women are supporting women? We're calling for women participation in politics. We're angry at women for not being in politics. But how many women are supporting women? Because you see, even the men, when they're doing their campaigns, they call on the women come out, women are alive, something, they will show up. Why are the women not showing up for the women? Why are the young people not banding behind young people? I'll start with you.
And before you even answer that, we have to also look at, even in the at the end of the 2015 general elections, out of 168 rerun elections and by-elections that were conducted, we only had 6 women that were elected. It's a funny state of
you see,
Can you help us
reality.
understand?
Okay, so I'll tell you 2 things if you ask me. First of all, there's no encouragement for women to run.
Even if
And this cuts across not only government, it cuts across sectors. In most sectors, you rarely find women are rarely allowed to break that glass ceiling.
In this sector, we have loads of women.
No. In entertainment is different because the face is the most important thing.
This isn't entertainment.
It's really
This is
beautiful.
hardcore news.
It's the same difference. It's all part of entertainment. And so what happens is that the women are not being encouraged, 1. And 2, historically, maybe before now, women never used to support women. We all know this. Our parents or our grandparents were, because there used to be 3-4 wives in the house, they had learned to, undercut each other.
But
but over the years
in
now,
other areas, in business and finance, they are women of sound qualities. But why isn't
for most
politics
of those
giving them-
women, it was the men that were pushing them. Just check.
Recently in the
Check
US, a lot of women were being sworn into parliament. We saw at least, I can't get the figure, but a lot of them. And this is something that has never happened before. We've had so many elections come and go and women. So if the first world countries are going a step beyond the normal, why are we still remaining behind?
We should also
to be honest with
percentage
you, to be honest with you, we're getting more. We are
offices.
getting more women participation, and I'll tell you why. The IPC, International Press Center, recently sent out an application, asked women in politics to apply for a 3-day workshop that's starting sometime this week, right? And they had over 100 applicants, women who were in politics, women who were running for some office or the other. They had over 100 applications. So the women involvement is on the increase, right? It actually is on the increase. But the truth of the matter is that women, we need to be encouraged because a lot of the women are married women. They need the support.
But Fumi, let me hold you on that thought. On the vice presidential debate, there was a woman who was presented, and women were not so enthused by her delivery. That was an opportunity to buy as much as possible a backing.
I agree. And I know that maybe she wasn't, in that particular whatever, she wasn't so prepared. But it doesn't mean that. I also believe that you shouldn't just vote for somebody because she's female.
That was an opportunity to tell your story, a plan of action.
Can I say something in our defense? It is wrong or it would be unfair to judge the rest of us by the inactions or the actions of the worst of us.
Yes.
What happens, and they say youth are not ready for leadership, and give an example, with all due respect to Senator Dino Melai or Yahya Bello and Dimeji Bankole, say, the young people who have been there, they've not been lived up to standard, or that the women who have been in politics, they say in Jonathan's government, the women were the worst in corrupt, blah, 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 all this stuff. The reality is, most of the time, the political class go and bring somebody who doesn't have a capacity. You want you, Tabi, you want a woman. They put somebody there. And the failure of that person, they blame it on the whole generation. As they see the youth we gave opportunity, they did not perform. So do not blame us or the larger part of us for the ineffectiveness of the littlest of us. There are many women who are on the front line, who are rising up like young people, who have potential, who have capacity, who may not have a voice yet, but the time is coming. There is a whirlwind and a storm that is brewing up, that when it begins to realize and turn into rain, the nation will not be able to hold it. There is an uprising among the young people in this generation. We want to be part of decision making, and we will take over. Our time is very near. We're preparing, we're building our businesses, we're building our resources, we're empowering ourselves, we're doing online courses, we're getting all the jobs and the internships and the engagement. Some of us are already ahead. For example, the young man Sujimoto, who has a real estate business. There's young people are in the Nollywood industry who are making it. Very soon we'll begin to transfer, like what Banky W is doing and Dayo Adeneye is doing. All those skills into leadership capacities for governance.
Do you think in the nearest future we'll have the Macrons, we'll have the Theresa May's, Angela Merkel's, and even Sirleaf Johnson in Nigeria?
I'm not sure about the nearest future, and I'll tell you why. These names that you've mentioned, right, are people who, I'm trying to look for the right word to use, right? If you want young people in politics, you have to groom them. You just talk about a few. Out of everything you've spoken, there's no more than 5% of the total amount of the young people we have. And the truth is, I have been doing youth engagement for a while. I happen to have a ministry in charge of singles. And have you heard of the millennials?
Yeah,
That's part of the problem. Most of the young people, they have short attention spans. They have an entitlement mentality. And until we begin to change that, it's only very few of them that would push out and launch out.
I totally disagree with you, and that's why we had issue in the first time. For every you have to understand personality trait.
I agree.
So they blame a lot of people. It's like when you're growing up and you had dyslexia, but they will say you're an olodo. They blame a lot of our generation for things that are just scientific. For every young person that you think is not in the right direction, I will name you a Fela Duotoye. I will name you a Toyosi Akerele. I will name you a Jimmy Aino in LIRS. I will name you a Akim Murio Kola. I will name you a Akin Oyebode.
Oh, you are see those names you're calling.
No, see, let me tell you something. You cannot generalize that we do not have. Let me tell you, I see a Macron happening in Nigeria by 2023 election. I see an Angela Merkel happening in Nigeria by 2023 election. A lot of the young people, let me tell you, many of you.
But you seem to sound a bit more prophetic than a bit more realistic.
No,
as to what we have on ground.
Yes, we already have. Let me see. Most of those who are running now are not necessarily going to win that election, but they would have built a base that if they sustain by 2023 election, they will be at the front line.
Again, my question, I go back to that question. How many young people are willing to back young people to grow to that level where we can now take it?
When I ran in Lagos mainland, in particular my local government election, I had an empowerment program. I trained 7,000 people, women and youth. I have the pictures, I have the videos, I graduated them. In a massive event attended by first ladies and all of that, where people got 3 weeks capacity and skills. I had concerts, I had programs. Do you know what they were? Hold on, no, that's a different thing entirely. But the grassroots, the point was I was supported, fundraised for, encouraged, volunteered for by young people who believed in my dream. Exactly. The point is a lot of young people are now getting serious. They are rising up. Young people fought for the not too young to run bill. This bill was ready to be kicked out. They were not going to pass it. But because of the tenacity, because of the sacrifice, because of the passion of young people like myself, Samson Itodo, and the others who pushed for this bill, it was signed into law. It became part of the constitutional amendment.
Well, I completely agree with you. What I'm trying to say is that the older generation, how much are they allowing the young people?
Yeah, power is not given. Power is taken. I will say power is not served a la carte.
Now,
we cannot keep making excuses that they're not giving you a chance. You have to push yourself forward.
Let's move the conversation forward now to get things right in Nigeria today. What should the youth be doing in terms of gathering funds together, pushing the conversation together, moving as a force to reckon with? What are some steps you think we should be moving towards the right direction?
I think one of the first few things is to ensure that youth register to vote. A lot of the young people on Twitter are ranting, and a lot of them don't have PVCs. So first of all, we need to educate them and ensure that they all go out there. Once they turn 18, they all go out there and register to vote. That this is not about just what I say. You have to be participatory. You have to participate in it. So we'll first start by pushing, and which is the discussion I'm having with a lot of people now. Start pushing young people to even get registered first. And then start to educate them that the power is in their hands. You know, we've been sold a lot of propaganda, a lot of, you know, that the people feel that the power is no longer in their hands. You know, and a lot of young people, they kind of given up. They feel that the country has been, what's the word to use? The country has not been fair on them. And so a lot of them have sort of just given up, which is why when you go out to campaign, they tell you, so how much are you giving me? I mean, I'm talking about young people, they're saying, madam, look, if you don't have money, we can't listen to you. You know, and I'm wondering, how much is this money that you're talking about? What will it do for you?
Breakfast.
Thank you.
People are hungry.
Do you understand? What will it do for you? If I give you breakfast today and I get into power, and you vote for me and I get into power, I'm going to remember that I giving that person breakfast now. Okay, so let me eat my own breakfast.
But if you are hungry, that should drive some sense of direction.
That hunger, that exactly.
Say, I need change.
That hunger, yes. You know, every morning I tweet, emancipate yourselves from mental slavery. Because the major problem that our young people have is poverty here. You know, we need to help them, educate people that, look, you have the power in your hands. Don't sell your birthright. Don't give up. You know, somebody called me some time ago, I won't mention the area of Suliri, and called and said, Auntie Fumi, look, they're buying PVCs. I mean, I thought I'd go there and go and do it. Go and video it for me. She said, there's somebody with slap half face there. You know, and that's exactly what's happening. Young people are selling their PVCs. For which reason? They've given up. They've been sold a dummy that Nigeria can't be better.
I have a question. I want to go back to why you're running again, because you're speaking now not just as the average Nigerian, but somebody who's running for office. Now, I'm okay with young people running or anybody running, but then before you decide to aspire to that position, how much value have you added as a young person? Or even as an individual, can the people in your constituency or in your local government area or in your tiny community attest to the fact that you have been a positive value adder in that area? Talk less of, you know, or talk more of going to a higher level or aspiring for that.
I agree with you. And like I said, you see, I've been a member of Junior Chamber International for the last 20 years. I have been in charge of the singles. And I'm a Christian, I'm in charge of singles in my church for the last 10 or thereabout years, and then in charge of singles in the province. So I have a lot of young people around me.
Redeem.
What's your problem? How is it your problem now?
Let's stay on the issue, please. Okay.
So I've been around a lot of young people, and this is why I decided that something must be done. Over the years, we've done skill acquisition programs. I personally believe that the first thing you need to develop is self, you know, and so over the years, that's what I've been trying to do with young people, help them to find themselves, all sorts of engagements you do, for those there's some people who don't want to work. So you look for things that they can do, you know, like help them find jobs, train them, you know, train them on how to attend a job interview, train them on leadership skills and stuff like that, so that they can develop themselves. They have more confidence in themselves. So I've done that over the years. In fact, 3 years ago, we did a skills acquisition for tailors, gave out 4 sewing machines. The year before that, I did a skills acquisition for beading, fastening. So we do that.
A stronger support base at the grassroots.
You see, the truth of the matter is that when people say grassroots, and I also think that's a propaganda. You know, when people say grassroots, I say, what do they mean by grassroots? Is it the person that I have been paying her daughter's school fees for the last couple of years as grassroots? Or is it the single person who calls me in the middle of the night and is crying because something major has just happened to her and she needs somebody to pet her and, you know, and send her to sleep? Or is it the girl who we took her out of primary school, took her from primary school, sent her. She got married a few years ago, and we're paying her education from primary school. So who exactly is grassroots? Must it be the people in your community?
Well, people who need government the most, especially
Exactly.
people who...
So that's what I'm saying. So there's nothing when people, it's propaganda when our political party says you have to start from the grassroots. The truth of the matter is that it is the passion or the compassion you have for people that should be pushing you to serve. But a lot of people are going to serve because they feel there's money somewhere that they can spend, or there's money somewhere that they
But
can
we're more like a product of society, and this question is for you, Mr. Dyer. We're a product of society. We keep complaining about the kind of leaders that we have, the kind of people who are leading us, but these people are coming from homes. They're coming from communities. They have fathers, mothers, cousins, people, neighbors, people who live amongst them. And we're quick to point fingers at these people. But hey, you wake up in the morning and go to a local government chairman's house. You want him to pay your rent. You're asking for money for this. How do you expect this man to be upright and a man
There's
of
also a
integrity?
saying that politics is a dirty game. You go in clean and then you see a white sheet of
conform to the
paper and
establishment.
then you say possibly it's grey, I think it's black or it's off-white and all of those. Your reaction to that?
Okay, quick one. I wanted to say something to you, madam.
Yeah.
Please do not join the people that say that the young people are not ready. You know why? That is the excuse that they give. Well, we can't give them power because we're not ready. They're
I
not
haven't
ready.
said that they're not
Hold
ready.
on, man. No.
Okay.
When they say you guys are not prepared, you guys, who are the young people that want to give power to today? They all they know is social media and Facebook. They use that excuse to deny us an opportunity to serve. So that's why I've been careful to say you cannot generalize that all the young people are not ready. There are those, like God said to Elijah, I have 1,000 who have never bowed down to Baal, who have eaten, and I'm about to release them. There are a lot of us that God has prepared for leadership in this nation. And in due time, in due season, our time will come. And I believe that you're one of them.
I agree with you. You don't get, you see, I don't have a problem with the young people. I'm so sorry. It's not about the young people not being ready, right? It's about the fact that we have let the older generation, time after time, sell us dummies.
Absolutely.
And we keep sitting down and watching them sell us the dummy every single time.
Yeah.
I was still telling somebody recently, I said the truth of the matter is that we do need to fight to get it, right? But the truth of the matter is that because of a lack of mentorship on almost, a cost structure.
And the responsibility...
But, you've not
I'm coming
answered
to
the
that.
question.
And the responsibility is for those of us to go and learn, go and serve, go and submit yourself, go and be a PA, go and be an SA, go and carry bags. You learn through the process. When I was denied the ticket of my party, people offered me ticket from another party, but I said, no, I want to learn. I want to serve. I want to understand the system.
Yeah.
No, I'm not justifying that. I'm not justifying that. I'm backing
Must
up your point.
everybody serve to be able to be a leader?
No. What
I mean, serving in that
for
capacity.
you're
20
missing.
years.
Okay, so we're saying that. No, I agree with you on that.
Yes.
What I'm saying is that when you talk about mentorship,
Yes.
I mean that you must acquire the mentorship
Diane,
from
let's bring
somewhere.
the conversation
So let
back
me bring
to
it
what
back
we
to
initially said.
your point.
Now, there is the notion amongst the youth, there have been various reports we've seen from observation, first-hand experiences, and a whole lot. Politics is really a dirty game. And you go in, you see white, you call it off-white, black, grey, name it. Do you think we can really change this narrative and then assure the Nigerian youth that when you go in with a sense of purpose, you are going to be able to deliver and not kowtow to the current narrative where we always say, well, the two main parties are just...
politics is changing a lot. And like I said, by 2023 election, there would be a lot of change in the process. There are more people who are
Do you
exposed.
believe politics is a dirty game?
It can be, But if you have a dry cleaning industry experience, you can wash it and make it clean. What matters is the value at which you go into the space.
The reason I asked that question is the
yeah.
fact that when you go in clean, for example, and your godfathers who still play very active roles in defining politics today, you would kowtow to the
No,
pressure.
if it's not a do or die affair for you, if it's about service, if you have another career, I didn't get a ticket, fine. I contribute what I can to the party. I'm doing my work. I'm not here because of, as much as I didn't introduce myself as a politician or an aspirant.
Okay.
I'm here because of my personal experience. So young people, go and build a career. Go and get something doing. Build a business. As a matter of fact, you need politics for money for politics.
Okay.
So
all right.
if you have your own resources, you have your own degree, I can go back into my career any day, anytime. If politics is your only address, then you will be forced to do the dirty things.
In other words, don't
game.
make politics a profession. Well, we have to go. Thank you very much, Ms. Fumi Dosunmu Ayola. She is a candidate, Mrs. Fumi Dosunmu Ayola. She's of the Young Progressive Party, the YPP, and she's running for the Federal House of Representatives. Of course, we've been talking with Honorable Dayo Israel. He's a public affairs analyst. It's been an interesting conversation so far.
Really interesting conversation so far.
Thank you for being here.
Thank you for having us.
Well, we'll take a break, and when we come back, we'll be wrapping things up here. Stay tuned.